Okay, so this is the way it went. So when Bessie died, when Martha, the general dies, but this was never in the general's name. It was always in his wife's name. They married in Charleston. He knew he wasn't going to last but a few years, and he immediately put the deed into his wife's name, Martha Rind Nicholls. The general, they came here, the general died here, and her father died here, so she was nursing two men simultaneously. They were contemporaries, and they both died within a few months. Now, the children, so she brought in, Martha was left alone. She was widowed, she was young, and she brought in her brother. Her brother is James William Nicholls, the paymaster in the Union Army. Okay, his children is William Pinckney Nicholls, which is...
My daddy.
No.
Granddaddy.
Your granddaddy. And James William Nicholls would be your great-granddaddy. Okay? And so James William Nicholls had William Pinckney Nicholls and Bessie and Josie and Albert and Sarah and Ethan Allen. Okay. So when Martha dies in 1918, so she ran this place for 39 years on her own with the help of, her brother that was here. And so when she died, she left the plantation to Bessie. Bessie was her niece. And Bessie's husband had written the definitive work on General Ethan Allen Hitchcock's military career. Bessie dies around 1936, July 35, and leaves this to her brother, William Pinckney Nicholls, which is Garnett's grandfather. He dies in 42. So it's not very long that it's owned by a man. This has always been run by women. All right? So from 35 to 42, 7 years, it's owned by a man. And then he leaves it. William Pinckney Nicholls had lots of children, because remember, he had 2 children to the first wife that died in the buggy accident. And then how many children did he have after that? A lot. So the whole place was fragmented. Garnett's living on some of the fragmented land. All the children got a piece, roughly 70 acres, except one. One was the maiden, never married. So the father, to protect the maiden one, which one? Elizabeth? I can't think of
And
anybody.
Beth never married.
She only got 20 acres. And Glen Mary. All right? So, but she was working up in Washington, D.C., and she finally came back, and that's when Garnett's family was here. But when she came back to reclaim her inheritance, that was the time when Garnett's family moved out. And that must have been around 1960.
59, 60.
59, 60. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Now,
so,
I pick up there.
yeah,
I remember Mom and them talking about that, because Mom and them worked in Milledgeville at the boys' training school. She was expecting me, so she had to get out. They moved out here to Glen Mary, and she remembered my granddaddy in 42. He died in 42. She just did get to meet him when her and Daddy was courting, and she met him before her and Daddy married.
Now, William Pinckney Nicholls had all these children, okay? So William Pinckney Nicholls is Garnett's grandfather.
He had 5 by his first wife.
Okay, so he had Bessie Louise.
Uncle Paul across the road over here.
He had Joseph Nicholls.
Uncle Joe lived this way, in this land over here, right back of here.
He had Lucia.
Who?
Lucia Catherine.
Never heard of that.
She didn't live very long.
Well, she must
No,
be.
she did. She was buried in 1960 and born in 83. And then there was Boba, Ethan Allen Hitchcock Nicholls.
Yeah.
There was Paul.
Paul lived over here.
Paul is Larry's father. There was Anita.
That was Larry's granddaddy.
Anita Virginia.
And Anita V.
Anita
Anita V. And then Elizabeth R. Ryan. That's where Ryan came in. That was Aunt Beth's middle name, was the Ryan.
And then there was Elizabeth Rhine. Now, Elizabeth Rhine is the unmarried one that inherited Glen Mary, okay? And then there was William Pinckney Nicholls. And then there was Roberta Rind Nicholls.
That's right.
And then an infant.
Yeah. Well, it's buried out here, I think.
And then Isaac Nicholls. Mary Clementina Nicholls, another one that didn't live.
Great-grandpa had 9 kids, 5 by the first wife, 4 by the second wife, sister.
So his first wife, or your great grandmother, or his second wife?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
My
8, 9.
The first one
It does look like 12.
was Annie. Was Annie the first one? Yeah. Rowena was the second one. Okay.
The wives, you mean?
The sisters that great-grandpa married. Grandpa married. There was 5. You just named them. Uncle Paul, Uncle Ethan, Aunt Bessie Gassett. You know where the Gassett house is?
So you know
Sparta?
how's she's related to the Gasserts? You're related to the Gasserts too?
John Gassett. John Gassett's mama was Aunt Bessie.
Wait, William Pinckney Nicholls.
That lived there was a house on the
was
corner
Anita
coming into
Elizabeth
Sparta
Robinson.
from here. Was a house on the corner where Sandy Sisk lives now. Okay, it was a little yellow house there on the corner. That was Aunt Bessie by my granddaddy's first wife, set, half sister. And the Gassett house, was across the road there. This brick house. Yeah, John and I'll be, half first cousins.
Okay.
Yeah, because Aunt Bessie and Daddy were half brother and sister.
Did you know John and Mrs. Gassert very well? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. When Beth and them would come down from Washington, D.C., when they worked at the Methodist Board of Temperance up there, she'd come and visit, and she and John sit down on the front porch. I can see them right now.
Okay, so the second wife was Rowena Robinson.
What now?
The second wife was Rowena Robinson.
Right.
And she didn't live very long. And Anita Elizabeth Robinson was the first wife. Yeah, and they did come from Devereaux, because when I first moved here, do you remember Pat Kennedy?
Sure.
Sure.
Pat Booyer? Pat Kennedy. Who you talking about? There's a Pat Kennedy, and was a Pat Booyer that lived in the old home house out there at Devereaux.
Yeah, that had, when I met her, she had to wear a mask for COPT.
Yeah, that was Pat. That was, on Rowena, that you just read, Rowena, we called her Aunt Bird. That was my daddy's whole sister. That was her daughter, was Pat. So Pat and I were first cousins.
So she died of the COPD. And she's the one who gave me all the pictures. She's the only one in the Nicholls family that supplied all these photographs that we've got.
I talked to her daughter the other night.
You did?
Deb lives up at McDonough.
Ask if they've got any pictures.
She's got, she said she wanted us to get together sometime when I'm up at Gwinnett County with my daughter and go through some of those pictures that Pat had. Because, back then people didn't write names on pictures, and they didn't date them.
Well, I'm looking for pictures of Glen Mary. There's almost no pictures of Glen Mary older than, let's say, 1930. Now, there has to be pictures. I understand.
I don't know, Marilyn. Now, Randall, my cousin, lives out going to Macon. He's made the remark one time that he's got a picture of Glen Mary that he says, I remember him coming out of the church door several years ago, and he said, I bet had nobody ever seen it. I'm dying to know where he got it from and which one it is.
Who is he?
He's my cousin. That's Ethan.
Chad.
Ethan's
you
boy.
need to call that man up.
Yeah, you guys give me the contacts and I'll knock on it.
I'll have to call him because he's funny. I don't know whether he'd
Would
talk
you
or
call
not.
him and tell him that Chad's going to call him? That Chad collects photographs, particularly of Glen Mary, and he doesn't have to give up his photograph.
I don't know
We
what
just
he's
copy
talking
it.
about.
I can scan it, yeah.
Huh?
I said I don't know what it is.
Whatever it is, he wanted.
He just made that remark, but sometime he may have been like his daddy. You may not can believe what he said, but I don't know where he got it from.
But the chances
where.
are that he does
I'd love
have
to
something.
see it. I'm dying to see it myself, because all I remember is the old house. That was all back here. The old pictures that we got,
Yeah.
and when it wasn't painted. That's all I
I
remember.
mean, there's no pictures of the plantation. There has to be some kind of pictures.
Do you have any idea where any of the servants' quarters were on this place? Where they were located at one point?
No. Well, I always heard that the slaves, had houses and all back here in this pecan orchard back here. There was a pond back there. I remember it, and I think I vaguely remember some houses back here.
But the pond is still there. It belongs on the other.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the pond is there. It's
Oh.
an acre pond, and
Yeah.
it now belongs to that woman that's next door,
Who is that? Who you talking about?
your neighbor.
Okay.
Hmm.
Huh. I didn't
See-
know it was still there.
So you were born in Sparta?
Born in Baldwin County in December 2nd, 1944.
And you always lived in this house until you were how old?
Till I was 16.
Wow.
Oh, till you were 16, Diane. I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's when Beth Anita, she was telling you a while ago, when Beth Anita came, they had the house upkept some when they was in Washington working. Then they retired, came down here,
Right.
and she told Daddy we had to get out. So that's when Beth gave Daddy the 50 acres down here that I'm on. All of them got 50 acres is what I was always told, was 50 acres. But anyway, that's when Daddy built this house down here that I'm in now, my
Well, it
parents'
might have been
house.
50 acres.
Huh?
But I don't know that in 42 there were still 9 children living. I have the deed.
In 42?
In fact, I have the deed in 42 when he died. So it lists everybody and what they got. What did you just say, Garnett, that just rang my bell?
Oh, Lord, you like
So
me.
you- so
There's
what-
so much running through your mind.
What are your earliest memories of this place? Some of the earliest memories you might have.
Oh, just living here till I got big enough that I would go around with Mom and Daddy. I've told Marilyn about picking cotton. I remember picking cotton right out here at the driveway on the right, just a little bit. They never made me do much. I'd go with Daddy in the old 49 red pickup truck across the road to the cornfield, and they'd pull corn, cut the stalks, and bring them, put them in the barn down here.
And how did your mom and dad end up here initially?
Wasn't like I said, they had to leave from their work, their job in Milledgeville.
Okay.
Because Mama was expectant, and they weren't allowed to work.
So was this house empty at the time when they came over here?
It had up here was all antique stuff, all old Civil War stuff.
But was anybody living here?
That I don't remember.
What year did you come
I
here? We
didn't.
would know that.
Ma'am?
What year did you come, honey?
Here, right from the hospital.
So in 44?
In 44, yeah.
Okay,
But see, I don't know who was here. I don't.
And who was living in the house across the street over here?
Right there.
Yeah.
That was Uncle Paul. That was one of the first, his half-brother. My daddy's half-brother.
Okay.
By the first wife.
Okay, so in January 42, Grandpa dies.
Yeah.
And you came here, when were you
In
born?
44.
December of 44.
December 2nd, 44.
There must have been somebody living in this house for that interim. Who would have been living here? Do you
Well,
know?
that's what I say, Marilyn. You know, I don't remember Mama ever saying or just
And they
never
had
thought
and they
to
had
ask.
Civil War antiques up in here. What was that for? What was that all about? You said they had antiques
Well,
up here.
that was stuff from Great Grandpa when he was in the war, in the Civil War, in the paymaster.
They had all the bullets. What do they call it?
They had
not the bullets, the ballots.
muster rolls.
Muster roll. That's what is the muster rolls?
And a lot of them was down here when the house was down here where the cottage is now. Was up on those
On stilts.
on those granite stilts.
That's right.
They were trunks of just trunks and trunks of muster rolls.
And what happened to
And
those?
a lot of them, they'd be out blowed across the yard out there. Mom would go pick them up, or a lot of them had burned places on them. Just weren't taken care of. Probably back then we didn't know. Mama didn't know they would be of some value someday, you know.
Right.
And all like that.
Why did they keep them?
Why did they keep them? Well, I don't know. They were just here.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kept. I just remember coming up here.
Oh, no,
Mama wouldn't let me come up here much.
This is interesting. After caring for his father, Isaac Smith Nicholls, so James Nicholls, you know, the paymaster, he made a permanent home at Glen Mary to take care of his father. So Isaac Nicholls was here at the same time General Hitchcock was here. And they had 2 sick patients. They had 2 old men here. So Martha must have taken care of her husband, and her brother, James William, took care of their father. And they died within each. And then William Pinckney came home, gave up his job at the state hospital in Milledgeville, and took care of Martha until she died in 1918.
Huh. So what did y'all do with the cotton? Did y'all sell the cotton, and how much did you have growing here?
I don't know how many acres it was. I remember when we went down, I'd go with Daddy down to the gin down here, and they'd gin it.
Where did they gin it?
Take the hose, I call it, and suck that cotton up. Going right into Beulah. You know where the Hitchcock house is? You don't know Franklin Hitchcock?
I know him, but I don't know where his house
Okay,
is.
his old home house is right down the road here. When you go into the curve going into Beulah to go this way to Milledgeville, his home house is still there. His daddy had a store there, and the gin was right behind the little country store. And I remember we'd go down that night and gin cotton. Mm-hmm.
Who would pick the cotton?
Well, me and Mom.
Oh, man.
A little at that time, you know. I mean, that was after I was growing up. I don't know how old I was at that time, but I remember.
And what did y'all do with the barn down here? Do you have any memories of that? What that was used for?
I just remember playing in the barn.
But you used to rip the ladder. You said you used to get up the ladder.
The ladder is still there. I would go in there while Mom and Daddy would be putting the corn stalks up in the loft of the barn. I'd go up the ladder and go up there where Daddy was putting it up there. Played out there. And remember Daddy milking the cows. And
So where did the cows roam?
the cow in the pasture, I presume, back in here. This was fenced off, and there was a gate down there.
I see. And did you use the corn and the cow stuff for your own family, or did you guys sell it?
Well, when Daddy had pigs, I'm sure, you know, he fed the pigs and all.
Now, there's an old photograph from maybe the 1930s that shows a black woman amongst the pigs in the backyard here.
Aunt Margaret.
That's the one we called Aunt Margaret. She's buried right down here across from my house, and they say in that cemetery. Don't you remember when Donna and John came that year?
Find her.
And we went down there, and she said they couldn't find it, but
they didn't look hard enough.
there was an Aunt Met and there was an Aunt Margaret.
But Aunt Margaret was black, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And how would she come in contact with the property? Was
She looked after. Now where she
was the
stayed,
daughter of a slave.
she looked after Grandpa. Yeah.
She did, and she looked after the two little children that were orphaned when their mother died.
Huh.
Now what were their names? Marilyn, I don't know.
And would she live in this house, or would she live in a house off this
She
main?
lived up here in the double parlor.
The black lady did what? Lived where?
Lived up here in the double parlor, because a lot of this was storage.
Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. That's right. I told him you couldn't get up here. There was old furniture,
Yeah, storage.
old
She lived
beds,
up here in storage.
beds, antique beds.
Oh, so you guys lived
Just- I
downstairs
don't know.
then?
Oh yeah.
And did you have any brothers or sisters?
No. No, child.
So how did you entertain yourself around here?
Make mud pies and ride my bicycle out here in the backyard. This oak tree that was down here, I don't think that's still it. I'd go down here and make me mud pies and in the afternoons entertain myself.
You didn't have any kids around the neighborhood that were there?
Well, Jane Ethan's, as she was reading a while ago, across the creek over here, but my parents kept me close. They wanted me at home and close by.
Uh-huh.
I didn't go and spend the night with people and just, run around the community.
And then,
I didn't do that.
And how did you mentioned how you kept cool in the summer, in the hot summertime? How did you guys stay cool in the house?
We just let the windows up
Yeah.
downstairs.
You got a pretty good cross breeze?
Mm-hmm. Cross
Did you have the doors open too, or not?
well, of course, in the daytime, but at night we just have the windows up.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember any screen doors, really.
Yeah.
Front or
You didn't have
back.
issues like flies and stuff?
Well, I'm sure. We didn't.
What room did you live in downstairs?
The front room on the left, as you come in the front door.
Okay.
Right up under here.
Huh. And then where'd your mom and dad sleep?
In this room in the back.
Okay.
Right down here. Mm-hmm. And the dining room is where
My office is.
Marilyn is, her computer and all that. That was the dining room. We had a dining room table right there where her desk is. And then we sat in the front part of the living room, as we called it, and had a wood heater.
But you had two doors in that room. And the one door went into what now is the kitchen, was a commissary.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Somebody closed it up.
And they closed it up. Who closed it up?
I don't know, I thought you did.
No.
Nader and Beth had it done, I guess.
Maybe they did have it done.
And did you have the front porch out here at the time?
Hmm?
And did you guys hang out on the porch much?
Oh yeah, when I was dating, we'd sit out in the swing. Yeah.
On the bottom level or top level?
Bottom.
Oh, okay.
Upstairs, on the room across the hall, Jane and I we'd slip upstairs and got us a quilt, and we'd laid out on the front porch and sunbathed. About 15, 16, 14, I don't know.
And then it was the plantation road out here at that time, the other little road that went in the front of this house.
It's the same road there.
But the plantation road wouldn't have been here.
Yeah, the plantation road was visible.
Oh,
Whether or not
okay.
they were using it, I don't know, but the aerials from 42 show that road.
Okay.
And then at 73, in 1973, it's almost gone. You can barely see that road.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You're talking about the one that goes down to what we call the
That's
the
right.
bottom,
That's it.
right here. Yeah.
Right.
Now, where it came in at, I don't remember, because don't you know it was steps, they said,
That's right.
here down to the road.
5 steps, Inez said.
But yeah, part of that road, is it passable? I don't know.
Well, it's very evident from down there because it turned around and went
Yeah,
to
you
the
can
mill.
see it when you go back out this driveway. It goes
Yeah.
that way. But then it went across the road You know, we talked about that
Right.
here a while back. It went across the road, but now Uncle Joe's land, that was one of the
That's right,
first
it did go
children.
across the road.
It that little road used to turn and go down in there. We had a garden back in there. Right, where are we at? Right over here.
You
Back
did?
of the well house, back
Uh-huh.
not far back of the well house now, the old garage. Over that way was a place down there we had a garden. I ran into this fence right out here where your dog's buried. I remember running into that fence and a barbed wire stuck in my nose right here
Oh,
and bled like I don't know what. I guess Mom and them must have been down there, and I was going to run down there, go walk down there or something. I remember that as good as it was yesterday. And see, you can remember some things that some I
Yeah.
can't.
Right. How about the kitchen? Was the kitchen in the back? The detached kitchen, was that still here when you were a kid?
The separate,
Yeah.
yeah, sure it was. Garnett.
was it? See, I don't remember in
Of course it-
44
of
till I
course
got
it
on
was,
up in
because there
it.
was no kitchen in the.
I remember the workhouse where your garage is. I remember a building there.
No, that's
That was Diddy's junk house. And then there was
yeah, because
one
that
right here.
garage wasn't built until 1960. Rowena and Elizabeth built that.
I don't remember when that.
But
I remember a house out there where your garage is now. I remember that because Daddy had his little workshop out there. I don't know when that was torn down or what.
Did you guys have many visitors here?
Oh yeah, yeah. Family would come and visit. Yeah, back then we visited a lot. We'd go over to Uncle Paul's. We'd go down to Uncle Ethan's, and we'd go over to Uncle Joe's, his half brothers, and visit at night. People visited big back then.
Huh.
Yeah.
there was no TV.
No TV, nothing to do. Really, I mean, you know, wash your dishes by hand, I guess, and wash the clothes. This oak tree out here. I remember washing clothes out here in the tub on the washboard.
And where would you get the
And-
water from?
and
The well?
wash pot. We had a well.
Where it is now?
Mm-hmm.
And did you have like a bucket that you pull up, or was it automated, or
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that.
just a bucket? Huh.
Mm-hmm. Draw it up like that.
I wonder if it's still lined. If the well has still got lining, like a stone lining or anything
That
on it.
would be interesting to find out what when we take that apart.
Right. And then tell me a little bit about Sparta. Did you guys go into town very much, and what kind of stuff did you do there, if you did?
I don't remember until I got on up in probably high school. That's the only place we had to go. We'd go to Cliff Hill's place on the back street there where he had a little grocery store. And we had a dime store we'd go to, and they'd take me, and I'd meet other girls there or boys, and we'd go to the movies. They'd sit on the streets. The parents would sit on the street, park on the streets, and they'd get together and talk. The wives would get in the cars and talk. The men would stand around and talk outside. And while we was in the movies.
So they had a movie theater downtown?
Right where it is now.
Oh, okay.
Where that Hargrove restaurant is. Right there.
Huh.
Down there. Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but did the courthouse at the time, did it have a bell that would ring on the hour? It does now, but I was wondering if...
It did when we was in school, I know.
Okay.
Because we'd walk from school sometime over to the furniture factory where the mushroom place is.
Right.
That was the furniture factory. At that time, that's where my daddy worked. And I'd walk from school and meet him when he'd get off of work at 4:30. Yeah, I remember that.
And that's the old school that burned down recently, right?
That's where we graduated from, right
No,
there.
what's your father's name, honey?
Ma'am,
What was your father's name?
my daddy, William Pinckney.
Right here he is. He married Mabel Smith.
Well, you've been reading William Pinckney.
I know, but there's a lot of William Pinckneys in here.
Yeah.
It's like Rowenas. There's a million Rowenas and a million Bessies and a million
Annie's and Elizabeth's
Annies,
and
they're all
Bessie's.
over the place.
They'd go just
So-
like the signature over here on this wall. Well,
Yeah.
they ain't Bessie, you
That's
know.
right.
And
And what was the other one? Yeah,
They
so-
named me after Beth, Elizabeth. We called her Beth, you know. But they,
So no, your father was born 1907,
was it 7? I was thinking, I thought it was 8.
and
March.
he died in 84.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Married in 42.
I thought he died. I thought he was born March the 20th of '08.
March the 20th of 07, it says.
Well,
It doesn't mean
I don't
this is
think-
right.
I don't think that's right. 'Cause
It might not be
I
right.
think the cemetery up here says '08. What are you reading all this one?
Look, right? Anita, 1985.
Did you guys have chickens on the property?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember chickens. Yeah,
Mm.
everybody had chickens, but I don't remember Mama wringing the heads off like my grandmama did. You know?
Yeah. Would you
didn't do that.
would you guys eat the chickens?
Hmm?
Would you guys eat the chickens or just collect the eggs or both?
Yeah, we had eggs. Yeah. No, we didn't. I don't remember Mama killing them and eating them like my grandmama did back then. I remember her doing it.
You know, funny you should say that.
Why?
My grandmother, of course, those old grandmothers went out there and wrung their necks,
Mm-hmm.
and my mother wouldn't even dream of going out.
I can see
Looking
my
at the
grandmama right
chicken.
now wringing that chicken's head off, and honey, she could fry the best chicken. We'd go down there on Sundays and eat.
Huh. And then what was the front yard like? Was it a lot more vegetation, a lot more trees and stuff than there is now?
No,
No.
wasn't anything but two magnolia trees. That one, and
Garnett, there were 6.
6. And
I
the
have pictures of them.
the boxwood that was eat up with the wisteria
That's
that
right.
we hated around there, and there was a walkway between them. This one over here, the ice storm got that year. I don't know what year it was. We had an awful ice storm here, and it broke that one all to pieces. And they finally, I guess, Nita and them had it cut down.
What was that, the magnolia?
This one on the left, right here.
Oh, the magnolia.
And what year would that have been?
I really don't know. I was probably, I'd say I was between 12, 13, 14 years old.
Yeah. And where'd you guys go after you left here?
My dad built a house
Okay.
right down here. Beth gave him 50 acres of land, and he built the house there.
And Beth moved into here?
Huh?
Who moved into here after you guys left?
That's when Beth and Nita came to restore the house.
I see. So it was in pretty rough shape when you lived here, the house was?
Well, outside looked bad. It was the brown, I call it brown, gray-looking color, you know. And I remember up here, a lot of these things were gone, fell and broke, things like that. But downstairs was nice.
What was a lot of this broken, did you say?
Some of it was. Oh yeah. I remember in this room especially, the grape designs had fallen out, you know, and all. That's when Beth and Nita came.
Yeah.
Beth just let Nita do her thing, you know, and bless her heart, she just, yeah, okay, well, you know, just whatever.
I thought that was the case,
Yeah,
because this is restored so perfectly. And of course, that's when they found, when they took this down to restore it, they found the signature of the man who did it.
really.
Yeah. So somewhere underneath there is his signature and even his address. And it was recorded time and time again in the newspapers of people writing about it. In the 60s. The only time they could have ever seen this would have been when it was restored. And I figured that there must have been pieces, you know, out of this.
Oh yeah, well, in all the rooms there were pieces missing, you know, broke out. I don't know how, why, what.
Humidity,
I know
temperature.
Nita had somebody from, I believe they were from Washington.
Edward Mason Jones from
Washington
Albany,
came and did.
Albany, Georgia.
Was it Albany?
Edward Mason Jones. He did work in Washington. He
Oh,
worked in the
okay.
White House.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
And Glen Mary is in Edward Mason Jones' book. I have the book downstairs on the shelf, Chad.
Huh.
And that's where that picture came from that looks so rough in about 1930.
Right. So what kind of story did you hear? Any stories about your great grandfather that fought in the war, or how this place was affected during the war? Did you hear any stories about that?
What all I remember was talking about when Sherman's army came through. They claimed. What I was taught, Marilyn says it's not true. But in the dining room, as I was talking about, when they heard he was coming through, they buried the silver in the floor. What silver they had here. And then we were all told, and every one of my cousins in the family, from all sisters and brothers, would tell you they remember the story that he came in the army, sat on the porch, on the steps out front, and played the band. Now, some says it's not true. I remember coming up the steps that there were signatures where they had written on the wall coming up the steps. I remember those.
The front steps or the back?
Coming up the steps here would be on the right-hand side, coming up these steps
inside the house.
Mm-hmm. I remember there would be writing on the wall, signatures. Mm-hmm. Now, if that was them, I don't know. I guess if that's true.
What was it, like in pencil or something? Or okay.
Yeah. That just sticks in my mind about them burying the silver in the floor, because they thought we were coming through here.
Yeah.
And they didn't, did they, Marilyn? They kept going to
They did go through on 22.
Huh?
They did go through. They devastated on the way to Sparta on 22.
They burned a house in Sparta.
Yeah, but they miraculously did not come the ancillary group that burned and ravaged around Devereaux, going all the way up, did not come here.
I don't know why Beth and Nita and they always told us that. That's what they were told and taught.
I'm sure that's what they were told.
So,
and I'm sure they did bury the silver somewhere.
And they passed it down to us.
The stories of burying silver were legion.
Well, I know another thing too. They Beth and them always said that Aunt Matt, the black lady, she cooked for some of his people, and that's the reason they didn't destroy this house. Is what we were told. So.
And she would have had to have been pretty young, because if she's in that photo from the 1930s.
You mean Aunt Margaret?
Well, whoever, Aunt Matt, Aunt Margaret, whichever.
Aunt Matt,
that she cooked for them and fed them. Now we were told that.
She would have to be, couldn't be, because in 1910, when that picture was taken, she couldn't have been more than 30 years old.
Oh, that was 1910, that picture with the hogs?
With the hogs?
She looks older than 30, doesn't she?
If she was 40.
Oh, okay.
Even if she was 60.
Yeah.
It still wouldn't be the right time frame.
Yeah.
I've got a picture of one of them, I don't know which one.
And she certainly wasn't 60.
With a white outfit on.
Huh. Did you guys do any hunting around here?
Hunting?
Yeah. No.
Daddy didn't hunt.
And did he always work at the furniture factory here in Sparta?
Hmm?
Yeah.
I don't know what year he went there.
And that was originally a cotton mill, right? It was a cotton warehouse, I believe, originally. Then it became a furniture and then mushrooms.
It could have been.
That's Mr. Curry's, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Interesting. You have anything else you can think of you want to talk about?
Well,
let me think what I can ask her.
the barn and across the road, I remember that.
Garnett,
what's
behind the barn,
Mm-hmm.
there is a foundation. There was a building right behind the barn. Do you remember what that building was?
I don't remember that,
Think
Marilyn.
about it. It's dug out.
Hmm.
You know, it's clearly a foundation for some building. It's all dug out with banks.
Hmm.
What
I
building
don't
would
know,
that
unless
be?
it was addition on there on the back.
No, it's too far away from the barn.
Oh.
It would have been a separate building.
All I remember
Garnett,
is
do you
going down
remember
there.
what happened to the mantles? There's only one original marble mantle. What happened when you were young? Were there any mantles here? Because these mantles were brought by Nita and Beth from Washington. So when you were young, when you came up here, what did you see? Were there any mantles here, or were they gone?
I'm trying to think, Marilyn, because it was so much stuff in these rooms till I don't know. I remember something about Beth and them replacing mantles, but it just don't stick with me right now where they got them
but the mantles must have been gone if they replaced them.
Or they
there must
took
have been
the old
nothing
ones
here.
out and put.
And where, you know, in other words, do you know how they disappear? Is my big question. How did they go? Who's got
I
them?
don't know. See, I wasn't.
Were they sold? Were they sold?
I don't know. I have no idea.
So when your relatives came here and took over this property in the '60s, did they do a lot of work to restore it? Did it look a lot better after they were done with it? And how long did they live here?
Nita.
You know, I don't know. I don't remember.
Do you remember the people that lived here before Marilyn?
The Hills.
The Hills, yeah. Talk about that.
What were they like? How did they come into possession of the house? Do
They
you
were
know?
nice people. I helped them. I just remember one time helping Marilyn here recently with some catering. I helped her one time, me and a black lady. It was beautiful. It was gorgeous. It looked like the White House, inside and out.
How long ago was that?
So when the Hills bought it in '86?
It's back when was that article in the Southern Living? That's when they owned it.
Right, I have that article somewhere.
I've got it too. It's in a house, but I cannot say I'm gonna remember what year it was.
They would have bought it in '86.
They bought it in
I think
'86.
they did, and then sold it to Preservation America in '98.
98. I need to write that. I need to
And
get that
they
wrote down too.
did so much to destroy the place. They were the most supercilious people imaginable.
Huh.
I mean, they simply thought that they knew. You know, imagine that they painted over all the graining. Well, okay, Garnett.
They did what,
Do you
Marilyn?
remember what was there graining in this room? Look, all these surrounds.
Grain? What are you saying? Graining?
No paint.
No paint.
No paint or graining, like, you know, painted. Like this is grained.
When the Hills had it?
No,
Oh.
when you were here, when you
Oh,
were young.
it was just no paint.
No paint.
Just the regular color wood.
That's what we thought, because when we took the paint off of it down over there, remember?
Because I know
Greg
Beth.
saw no wood. So somebody must have stripped it. Who stripped it? When?
Nita probably had somebody to do it.
But
do
that would
all
have been,
that.
no, Nita would have done it after you were here. So I mean, when you lived here. When
I
you
don't
lived
remember
here in
any
the 50s.
paint on it.
Huh?
I don't remember any paint. I don't think.
You don't remember any paint.
Because I know when Beth and them redid it and came here and lived, her windows and all were brown.
They were.
That was her bedroom over
That's
there.
right.
You have any pictures from the inside of this house?
Yeah, I have huge.
Back when when I had my bedroom downstairs.
Do you have those pictures, Garnett?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'd like to see those. I have the pictures from Nita.
Well, I got one or two. It's when I know it's when I had a boyfriend. We took some pictures in there. Me and Jane and her boyfriend.
Darlene,
One
I'd
time.
love to have.
Oh goodness, I'd have to find them, Marilyn. I'll tell how long it would take me to find them, but I know about where they are.
Do you? Would you look for them, honey?
Okay.
Because I've got a tremendous amount of pictures from Nita when they went through the house and restored it. I know they must have been very proud. So there's pictures inside and outside, and it was beautifully furnished. And there was still graining in the hallway, and I think we determined in that room, in Nita's bedroom,
Yes.
it looked like, I think there was no paint on but it was very beautiful.
Because let's see, didn't some of the windows have, what was it stuck in my mind? The round scrolling. Is it in some of these windows?
You mean the brass?
There was a round, looked like a,
Rosetta?
yeah, if that's what you call them, scroll.
Brass.
No, it
She,
was
you mean
brown.
she means in the woodwork, I think.
In the woodwork, was it the
Ros-
windows on the
Rosettas.
corners of the windows, or something sticks in my mind that they being brown. You know, like you put on that would be on the corner of the window or corner of a door or something.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure all this stuff wasn't there then,
What?
years ago.
What, honey?
The whatever you call
Trim.
this over the doors.
Molding
They
the
wasn't that high up back
Sure it was.
back in the 40s, were they?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Really?
That's original.
Well, where am I seeing that?
That's all original.
Hmm.
There's no doubt in my mind about that. That's absolutely original work
But
from the time it was built. What's not original is the finishes, which is a nightmare.
I'd like to see some of those pictures you talking about, because I don't know that I've ever seen them.
You have them handy? Can we pull them out?
I do. I have notebooks of Nita, and then it's all on the computer.
And it was that grayish looking color, you know, upstairs, well apart and all. Daddy liked rabbits. He loved rabbits, and I did too. He'd have right out here in front of this tree here, right back of this tree, he'd have his rabbit pen and little rabbits. And then there was a workhouse, they called it, where the cottage is now. And that's where I'd go out there and help Daddy saw wood with a crossbow saw. And he would he would rabbits and nail them up on the outside. He had a nail, and he'd nail them up on the outside of the house and skin them. Mom would cook them for breakfast.
Cook rabbit? Really?
Squirrel, rabbit, birds. He
Wow.
did do that. I mean, you know, but it's for deer hunting and all like that. He didn't do that. But I can visualize that. Things just stick in your mind. Some do, you know. Bring back old times. Yeah, been a lot of dreary days here, just like today. We had wood heaters. I think Aunt Beth, she bought the first refrigerator we had, and I still got it up in White Plains. It's me and my first husband separated, and it's, I presume, still out there in the my beauty shop I had. And that was back in 40. She had the first refrigerator in this area on REA. That was back in 40 what? I forgot what Mama said. And I remember we had a old black and white TV.
Here is Glen Mary's cornice in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. This was in color in Antiques magazine. So this is they used this cornice, you see, and that's the way they decorated the rooms, 19 70.
Huh.
We used this to get a grant. This was really rather important because so the National Trust funded. We could say, the importance of this is that it was in the Met, and we got every penny from them, and yeah.
Now, what was in that one? I had
This
one
is
of those.
just Glen Mary, that same photograph.
I had
of,
I got one.
It's a horror, it's a horror. You walked outside, and that staircase just hit you in the face.
That's what I just told
just-
him. I liked it from the road. It was beautiful.
It's dreadful.
My daughter was going to get married there, and Marilyn went and turned, and she turned. She tore them down.
So, were the steps original to the house? Those steps going down the front?
No, they were not.
Oh.
She says no, but we were told they were.
Oh.
Okay.
She don't want me to say that.
You're going to have to go.
By the archaeologists, they say it's not. There weren't any there. That's what we were told, that Sherman's army sat on the steps. You can go down yonder. I can go get Tommy Nicholls. He's younger than I am. How old is he? 70 years old? And he will tell you to the dying day the same thing. From there over to the kitchen. And then Nita comes along and wants to build all this stuff on the back of the house. And everybody said she just ruined the looks of it when she did that. She just took
She
it
did.
away.
The only thing is that
don't you know
couldn't.
Bubba down here? Ethan?
I know.
I know he raised H. What
But
in the
you know,
H did she want to do that for?
The worst is he took out the perimeter sill when he restored this. We have pictures of this actually with nothing here in the 60s. The porch, they restored it. But what they did was he took out the perimeter sill. So 40 years later, the whole building was sinking and the roof was coming down. You can't, these big columns, the weight is distributed through the sills. You take away the sills and the whole thing starts to sink.
Yeah.
But it's structurally sound now to last a long time.
So,
The porch was wood, I think, didn't I tell you I did ask Mama
It was
when she
wood.
was in the nursing home?
Yeah.
When she and Daddy came out here in 42, 43, 44.
Yeah.
She remembers it being a wooden floor out there.
Of course
now,
it
who
was.
came and fixed it? Cement, I don't know. But now I've got
You mean downstairs?
downstairs.
Oh, she remembers it was a wooden
yeah.
floor. But we
I
have
think I
pictures of
told
it.
you
You've
that.
given me a picture of it. I have a picture of it with
Of
a
it
wooden
being
floor.
wood?
And I think your father is standing in front of it. Yes.
Oh, well, maybe so.
But-
But I don't know who
but
came
that must
down
have been
here and
40
redid that porch in cement because
Oh,
when I was
18 inches of Portland cement we jackhammered out downstairs.
When I was 13, 14, with my Easter dress on, I got pictures, and I know that porch was cement back then.
When you were
That had to
13.
been in the 50s, wasn't it? Yeah.
So in other words, they put that in.
So I don't know who put that porch in from wood to there.
we need to get those pictures.
Yeah, I have those. It's online
Oh, do you?
too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, that poor old cat.
He's a
She is
poor
just
old
so
cat.
loving.
She is
Yeah.
lovely, and the other cat will come around.
You smell too. I've been.
Yeah, no, I have your father there. A
Oh,
very
I got some pictures of
early
Daddy
picture.
standing out here. Yeah.
Did you guys use an outhouse then? Before you put the bathroom in?
Before you, yeah, there was a whole row. Oh, where were
Well,
the
I don't
outhouses?
remember where the outhouse was. We just used the potty. You
No,
know.
Garnett, the outhouses. Think about this. Were they not in front of the cottage in a row?
No, I don't remember.
I think they might have been.
You got a picture of that?
We have a picture of just barely enough to see something.
Oh.
And the architect thinks that there could have been a row right there because there was also granite blocks right underneath it that would have been right for a potty area.
Let me think.
And remember, they
Marilyn,
would have been close to the house.
You know, like I was telling him, Tommy down here is what, 70 years old, and we get to talking sometime. He can remember stuff, Marilyn, I can't. So maybe we need to bring him in, and you could ask him some questions because he can remember. I got a picture of him sitting out here on a tractor right out here in front of the.
Oh, we've seen that one when he was a little boy.
Yeah,
We've seen that one.
that's Tommy.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, and we'll be talking about things just if I go down there and used to feed the dog, take the dog some scraps, and we'd get to talking, and he'd get off on the Nicholls house. You know, this house has always been, and I do know, the center of conversation when you got together with my daddy's, especially Aunt Bird that lived in Devereaux, Pat's mom. Oh, they would talk, and we'd get so tired of hearing it, and they would talk. Because the house was never left, was divided like it was supposed to be. And that's...
It was or was not.
That was not.
Yeah,
And that's the reason Bubba, Ethan, we call him Bubba, always had an attitude toward the house. Uncle Paul was the same way. I mean, it wasn't, I don't know all about it, but it wasn't,
But think about it.
it wasn't
you know,
divided. When whoever died, it wasn't divided like it should have been. They didn't get their share. The kids didn't, and it was just a friction there.
I'm sure it was a friction. It always is
Yeah.
a friction. But you know, clearly, if the only one that wasn't married was Beth,
Mm-hmm.
and she was a daughter, and this man died in 42, the one thing the father would want to do is protect the maiden daughter. I mean, everybody else is married and was going to have family and you know, could get on, but a maiden daughter in 42, well, you know, it's not so simple. So he protected that daughter, but still gave her a lot less, well, in terms of acreage. So she got 20 acres, everybody else got 50 or 70. I think there was about 540 acres to divide. And I don't think there was only so many children living in 42 of all that group.
Now, Beth got 50 acres. If I find it...
Beth got 50?
That's where she deeded that to my daddy. He got 50 acres, if I'm not badly fooled.
He must have gotten 50
Because
acres.
I'll find it.
He got 50 acres, darling. I've got the deed. He got 50 acres from his father. Not from Beth.
I think Beth gave him
No,
some of
Beth
that
wouldn't
land.
have had it to give. I've got the deed. Beth would not have had it to give. He got the 50 acres, or the 70, because look, 540 acres if there were 7 children, and 70 acres is 490, right? Seven children, 490 acres, and 20 more is 510.
It was over 1,000 acres. Now, where
It wasn't.
It went.
There were 2,500 acres.
2,500?
2,500.
And see, they owned that way down yonder on that road.
That's right.
What we call the low place back
Yeah.
over there.
But
on the,
Nina must have sold her bit, or somebody sold the bit across the way. Okay, so all that acreage was Glen Mary's across there. So now you've got Larry that owns a little bit, and Jody, you know, they bought 70 acres, and I think that was the parcel that in 42 was given. They bought 70 acres, and then you've got Tommy, who's got another bit of the acreage.
and then on up
And then on
there
up-
was
on up-
Thomas. Thomas owned.
Thomas,
He inherited
that's
on
right,
that.
Bubba.
And Judy still got that land.
Right.
And then across the road where that camper is now, before you get to Tommy's house, that was Nicholls' land.
That's right, it's all Nicholls' land.
So,
It's all Nicholls' land except the church and Jody that bought the 70 acres. But, I don't
Jody
know.
next door.
No, Jody,
Oh,
you know.
yeah, 'cause
Anyway, I do have that. You want to see it, Chad?
See what? See which one?
The deed?
Okay.
It says this big house. But me and Tommy and all our the cousins that's left now, we call it the big house. I don't know where it got that name from or where years ago, but we've always called it that. We don't say Glen Mary, we say, oh, I'm going up to the big house. I'll be back in a little while, you know.
They were generally called the big house.
Huh?
When you read about it in books,
I was looking at
the main
something-
house is generally called the big house,
Right.
as you know.
Right.
Yeah.
There was things here that I didn't know about as a child growing up then. That's what a lot of the friction in the Nicholls family was. Nita took stuff out of this house. She took it to the Smithsonian and sold it. That stuff, all that was supposed to have been divided through the families, and that's what some of the frictions and heartaches came in.
You mentioned a lot of the Civil War stuff. There probably was some amazing.
Now I do remember coming up here as a child, growing up. On this wall right here hung the picture of Abraham Lincoln. We got money out of that. I inherited some money out of that picture, and I don't forgot what it brought. It was a good bit.
It's a painting. Probably Hitchcock owned it.
I don't know who owned it or what, but
You remember seeing that as a kid, though, huh?
Beth, oh yeah, I think I don't know whether I have a picture of it or not, but Beth, I inherited it from her when she passed away. Whatever was sold, Rowena, Nita, that was Nita's daughter that had the bed and breakfast in Milledgeville. She didn't want this house. She could have bought it and kept it in the Nicholls family, but she didn't want it.
Who is that?
Rowena. So she said,
Rowena is, tell me who Rowena's mother is, Anita?
Anita,
Yeah.
Big Nita. You know, we call her Big Nita. She didn't want it, and we was hoping somebody would keep it
Rowena didn't want it.
and buy it and keep it in the
Yeah,
Nicholls family.
that's what I heard.
She went off over yonder. They sold it for what, about $200,000? We were told $200,000, and what that wasn't been, but her and Beth at that time got it and went over there and bought a bed and breakfast on Green Street. And,
That's right.
But I was going to tell you something else when I was talking about. Yeah, Nita took a bunch of this stuff out of the house. If my daddy hadn't got what he did out of this house, so he moved down here where we are now, we wouldn't have had anything of the family. I've got a trunk. I've got.
Is it steel lined? Is the trunk steel lined?
It's the Campbell back that we were told
Because that testament there mentions a steel lined trunk that was in this house.
It probably was. There was what they call a field desk. My son's got it. My great, let's see, Daddy's mama's bedroom suit that was in this house.
Oh, this is interesting.
Downstairs here, where the room next to the bathroom is, was in Mama and them's room. They went and had somebody in Milledgeville to redo it. Well, my son got it. He's got it in his log house in White Plains. That was my grandmama's bedroom suit.
Huh.
Daddy got that, and he got a field desk. You open it up, and it's got pigeonholes in it and little drawers in it. Daddy's got a tremendous heavy safe. You know how heavy those things are, and it's got J.W. Nicholls on it.
Wow.
Up there. Now, they claimed, and another story we was always told was the trunk in the field desk was great-grandpa's in the Civil War that he used.
Huh. And you've got the trunk, huh?
I got the trunk at the house.
Wow.
Camelback. Mom had it redone. Lost the value of it, but we had a guy up in Athens to redo it, and he redid her mama's trunk. I got my grandmama's trunk too. It's a flat top.
Huh.
But nobody really knows what all Anita did take out of this house and what she got out of it. And
I'd like to
this-
know where the mantles
the
went.
Smithsonian. Where?
I'd like to know where these
Oh,
marble
I thought you
mantles.
said I know.
I said, I'd like to know where they went.
Well, now that part Tommy might can tell you when Bubba worked up here.
Oh, yeah. I would like to
Because
know
he
that.
might have come up here with Bubba
Let's
back
ask
then.
Chad